Well, oh my God, it is a crazy day here in Wellington. The wind is just blowing. You may be able to hear it whistling out here behind me. It's just such a typical, I guess, Wellington day for the end of 2023. It's supposed to be midsummer. We haven't seen much of that this year. We've seen a little bit, and we're just kind of like in the middle, I think, of these two kind of like um, polar regions just kind of like absolutely sucking the air down. So tropical regions just absolutely sucking the air down, and it is just taking quite a lot of warm, moist air and chucking it down at us here in Wellington. It's not great. And I wonder what it's like where you are, even in the northern hemisphere or in the southern hemisphere. You may be in Australia or somewhere else in New Zealand. Give me a shout when you're online. It'll be lovely to hear from you. So today I'm going to be talking just kind of like a bit of a roundup of what have I been using this year that's been really good? What have I been using this year that's kind of failed me? And a little bit of a roundup of travel and what I've used in various different places that has been really, really cool. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing, and I'd love to hear what your travel kind of like stuff has been this year over 2023, and what you're hoping for in 2024. And if I can help you with any tech or travel in the chat, hit me up and let me know. Do you like this mug? I got this made, and it's kind of like you might see this logo so like appearing a bit more in the channel. So yeah, these are available in merch now as well. So yeah, if you click around on my channel somewhere, you'll see this and t-shirts and hoodies and hats and stuff like that. So yeah, help a man out and get some cool TechPacker gear as well. Okay, let's start with, let's see, where's my notes here? My tech wishes, wins and fails over the last year. Let's go back to what I made like a ton of videos about, the Go 3. This is still a really, really excellent device. You'll have seen the video that I made where one of the clasps here got a little bit gnarled up when I was in Nelson a few weeks ago. But this is still a fantastic device. I love it. I still wish they'd bring back interval video. It's one thing I just don't understand why they got rid of it. I don't know if they just thought nobody used it, but the number of times I've had comments of people actually even buying it and then returning it when they realized it didn't have interval video. I guess you'd have to know about the first time that came out in the original Go. Why does this keep changing? It's annoying me. Let's get you back out here again. There you go. And I'm just going to kind of like leave it there now, I think. So yeah, I wish that it had interval video again. That would have been that would have been the ideal, but it doesn't look like they're going to bring it back from anything that I've seen from Insta360. I wish they would, but on the plus side, they did bring out the black edition. Now you can see here the difference between the two. I do like the black edition. It's quite svelte, kind of like, you know, just like it's matte, but it's just a little bit more inconspicuous. It doesn't just kind of like stand out. Sometimes you want that, right? You want it to kind of like stand out. Hey, look at this cool little camera. I get asked about it all the time. It'd be nice not to have that every now and again. And I do think that this is actually, as I said in my last live stream about 10 days ago, this is a really underrated vlogging device, I think. Yes, you can't attach external mics to it, but if you just want something that can fit in your pocket without even filling your pocket, it's actually really good. Although, you know, I would want to protect that screen. This has got a screen protector on it. This is actually a fantastic little device. Definitely one of my wins of 2023. If you are in the market for a small kind of vlogging device that kind of does all kinds of extra special features as well, it's really good. I love it. That will be coming on my travel with me. That's definitely going to be making it into my travel bag. What else is making it into my travel bag that I think has been a win this year? Well, it's only very recently out. But again, another Insta360 product is the Ace Pro. And I'm still, to be honest, in the middle of kind of exploring the great stuff, the cool stuff that the Ace Pro can do. But if I could sum it up in, I guess, a few sentences, I would say that this is kind of like a hybrid device. It is a great device that sets itself apart from just being another action camera. You know, here's the GoPro Hero Black 12. Now, I'll just take a side note here. The last GoPro that I had was a GoPro Hero 7 Black, which was great. You know, we still used it every now and again, but kind of dated. This is a significant step up from the Hero 7 Black. You know, make no bones about it. It's, you know, completely different beast, but it's still just an action camera. Yeah, it's a very hardy, robust action camera, but it is an action camera. And there's all kinds of other stuff that you can do with it, but a lot of that stuff you have to unlock with getting a subscription, which I'm not that keen on. I try to minimize my subscription. Some of them I do pay for. This one I probably wouldn't pay for, particularly because with this, you get it all for free on the app. But I think it's this is a kind of like a one click and you're done kind of like device. Yes, you can get that with the Hero 12 Black and to a certain extent with the DJI Osmo Pocket 4. If I was looking for kind of like additional flexibility for things like color grading, then yes, I would probably consider the Osmo 4 probably more than the Hero 12. From what I've read about it, I don't have the Osmo 4, but for this is like fantastic in low light. It's a fantastic vlogging device so long as you don't hold it less than 40 centimeters close to your face. Not many people are going to be holding it that distance. For normal vlogging kind of like scenarios, you're probably going to be holding it a little bit further away from that, in which case this is absolutely fine. But it just has so many extra features on this that sets it apart from other vlogging kind of action cameras. So if you're looking for something that's going to do it all and have the flexibility to do all kinds of interesting things, then I think the Ace Pro, particularly with this kind of like flip out screen, gives you a lot more flexibility. Yes, it doesn't have a kind of like a video reproduction screen here, and that's fine for the Hero as well, but this really helps you with the kind of like the framing. So if you're into vlogging and you do want to attach an external mic onto this, I actually think this is probably one of the best devices, I would say, if you were going on your travels, you wanted a camera, you were thinking about an action camera, but you probably wanted to vlog and have some extra kind of like features for social media and stuff like that to share, then this, I think, is an excellent device to consider. Really, really good. So that's, again, another one of my wins of 2023. Oh, I should drink it this way, shouldn't I? Show you the little glasses. That's right. So if I'm thinking about Insta360 products, again, I think this is kind of like one of their underrated products, which I think is really good. By the way, I'm actually, the camera I'm using today is the Insta360 Flow Link, which is their webcam, which is excellent. One of the things it's not doing so well at the moment is kind of like it keeps scanning round and round, which is what I don't want it to do, even though I said, please don't do that in the instructions. It continues to do it. So I will just get to turn that off again. Just get the controller up. Let's have a look here. Doing stuff on the fly, always fun. All right, let's get that in. And let's turn that zooming off. Please stop doing that. I don't want you to do that right now. And let's just kind of center me over here. There we go. That's a little bit better there. Don't mind you seeing a bit of the stuff in the background. Oh, speaking of which, there's a new studio set up here, and that's Ron. That's Ron from Ron's Gone Wrong. If you haven't watched the movie, it's kind of like a social media kind of like trap video for movie for sort of like 12, 13-year-olds, but it's absolutely awesome. It's really funny for adults as well. Trust me, you'll love it. So yes, the Insta360 Flow, I think, has been underrated this year. You know, this is a fabulous device. I took this and I videoed all of my videos that I started publishing from my trip in Japan late last year, so August last year, plus mid last year, I guess, not late, and plus just handheld iPhone footage as well. This is an excellent device. It's really, really good. It's a very smooth gimbal, all sorts of extra features that you can get from it. But the really, really cool thing is not only does it kind of like come and get activated really, really quickly, but you have this, not only this kind of like extended handle. So, you know, some people have said it's only really good if you have small hands. Yeah, I don't use it like that. This bit extends out here, and you can see there. It now gives you like a really solid grip, even if you've got quite large hands like me. But also, and you may have just seen that here, it's got a built-in tripod too, which is super great if you want to get some tracking shots on there as well. You don't have to carry a tripod with you. They're extendable little legs, so that it's more stable than you think it's going to be. So it is really an excellent choice if you're looking for a smartphone gimbal. But the other really good thing that sets it apart for if you're out for a full day of shooting is, just align this right to get that in, is that it also acts as a mobile battery. So you've got this to charge your iPhone as well. Other gimbals don't do that. So it just saves room in your travel carry bag, because here's your battery already ready for charging up your phone in between shooting with your smartphone gimbal. So this is a great multi-purpose device. It's a fantastic smartphone gimbal, which does the job plus more with all the stuff that you can do on the Insta360 app. So that is a win for 2023 for me. That's really good. So we've got 3 Insta360 products here. So let me just switch gear a second and tell you about one of my other wins for 2023 for travel tech. And that's this little device. This, hold up the right way, is the AirFly Pro. Now, the AirFly Pro is what I bought, and this is essentially a Bluetooth transmitter and receiver. And the use case for this for me is using this on planes. So this, excuse me while I have a sip of coffee. This for me, plus my AirPods Pro, is just fantastic. You can just get on a long haul flight, plug this into the in-flight entertainment system. You've already got it prepared with your AirPods or whatever your favorite Bluetooth earbuds or headphones are, and you are done. You've got no wires connecting you. If you're sat on the aisle seat and people are coming in and out, you don't have to unplug yourself or anything. You don't even have to take your eyes off the screen. You just get up and carry on watching whatever you're doing. But it then can also switch seamlessly. You can just kind of like turn it off, turn the IFE off, and then go back to your phone and listen to a podcast or listen to your own music or or back on your laptop and do whatever it is that you're doing. It is absolutely fantastic. And it's been a lot smoother than I thought it was going to be. I thought I'm going to have a few issues with having to repair it and all the rest of it. No, this doesn't happen. I haven't had to do it even once. You do have to do things in the right order, though. You have to, I can't remember what it is now, but you have to kind of like switch it on before you put it in rather than switching on whilst you put it in. And that can lead you into a little bit of trouble, but it's really easy just to get over that by just switching it back off and then back on again and doing things in the right order. Now, the AirFly Pro is really good if you want to connect 2 devices to the same IFE. So maybe you both want to be watching the same screen, you and your kid or you and your partner, whatever. That's really, really good for that. But there is a new one. It's called the AirFly Pro SE, which I haven't got my hands on yet, haven't reviewed. I've got no real reason to get my hands on one unless they wanted to send me one. But the AirFly SE is a lot cheaper and it does a cut down feature set, but pretty much all the important things. It works as a Bluetooth transmitter, but it connects just to one device. And for most people, that's just fine. They just want it to connect to one device and listen to your AirPods or whatever and the in-flight entertainment system. Now, the reason why they brought out the SE is I imagine there are a lot more competitors on the market. I have seen a few. I've seen a few people kind of like mentioning them on my channel in comments, but also around the internet as well. So there's a lot more competition out there for AirFly. AirFly have a solid product, so they decided, I guess, to just kind of get a smaller version of it, a cut down version of it to compete more on price, with the same core feature set that works just really, really well. So yeah, that has been a hero of mine, absolute hero of mine, particularly if you're on like a 12, 13-hour flight. Charges simply through USB. So if you're doing a changeover in your flights or you're having some time off this, I didn't actually have to charge it again on a 24-hour, ended up being, I don't know, 32 hours with all the kind of like moving and waiting in between flights between here and London. Didn't have to charge it once. Really, really good. Didn't use it like, you know, for all those 32 hours, but I did use it for a good 3-4 hour stretch at a time for maybe giving my ears a break. Really, really good. Absolute hero of 2023. Right, what else have I got on my list here? Yeah. So one of the things that has been really good, kind of below the radar, but if you're looking for kind of like a portable storage device, maybe you've got films or maybe you've got just files that you need to have access to or music or whatever it is that you need, this thing is just fantastic. So this is an SSD drive. It's a portable SSD drive. It's the Samsung T7. This is the 2 GB version. I switched from one of these. You can see how much bigger it is. This is a Western Digital WD My Passport Wireless Pro. Had this for a few years now. Was using this to kind of back up all my files. I don't know if you know, but I make all my YouTube videos on mobile. I make them on my iPad Pro. Do all my editing, everything is all on the iPad Pro. And I need to back up my files off LumaFusion and get them kind of offloaded onto a hard disk so I can make room on my iPad Pro. It's only a 256 gig iPad Pro, so I don't have like a huge amount of space on there. Enough to kind of like, working space for it, but every now and again, just offload all of my projects onto a hard drive. Now that Wireless Pro was great, but it was really, really slow. Now, whereas offloading wirelessly onto the Wireless Pro maybe took 10 minutes for like a 1 GB project, maybe slightly bigger than that, which is quite a long time. This does it in like less than 5 seconds. It's wired for sure, but it still is incredibly quick. So this Samsung T7 has been a real workhorse for me, not just for 2023, but probably a year and a bit before that. But what I do have is a new version. I needed some extra space, but so I thought I'll get something that's probably, I don't know, this is fine. SSD tends to be pretty robust, so I want a slightly more robust casing. So this is the SSD from Samsung, the T7 Shield, which has got a little bit more kind of like impact protection and kind of waterproofing on there as well. So this is still unboxed. I'm looking forward to using it. It's a Red Dot winner 2023, which is kind of like a design thing. So I'm looking forward to using this in the future. It's got 3 meters drop resistance, water and dust resistance, as well as password protection. So this is looking great. I'm looking forward to busting that out of the box and using it in 2024. So that's been fantastic. Okay, what else has been good? I'm talking a million miles an hour here. Hey, Richard, nice to see you. Yes, you cannot beat a wire. And because this is so small and the wire cable actually is not like a huge one. Let's have a look here. There you go. It's really small. And this wire cable works where other wire cables won't. So this wire cable is excellent. I've tried other things, hooking things up from USB-C to USB-C. It's a data charging cable, of course, but sometimes other data charging cables fail where this works. So this is actually a really valuable cable in my work kit. So yeah, this goes everywhere with me, and I guard it jealously. It goes in my kind of like super secure bag that is like buried deep within all the other stuff that I carry, so that I can't muck myself up and lose it. So yes, you cannot beat a wire, Richard, and lovely to see you here. So one of my kind of things I had mixed feelings about in 2023, and you may be surprised about this because I've made a lot of videos about how good it is, but the last couple I made have been a bit kind of like and the pros and cons of this now, and this is kind of like going on in time now, and this is my iPhone 13. This is an iPhone 13, 128 gig, which is hooked up to the iCloud. So it offloads all my photos. They're syncing across all of my devices. That works really, really well. That works fantastically. It didn't perform so well when I was in Japan. And that's because it had like such a, it was so hot. And it just overheated really, really quickly all the time. So I was using my iPhone 11 Pro Max quite a lot with my gimbal there, the Insta360 Flow. And I suspect that didn't overheat so much because I was using it just for one purpose, which is just filming, whereas this was my workhorse and I was doing everything on it, like translation or looking up how to get from place to place or social media, all the rest of it. But I wasn't doing too much of that. But I also think it's got a smaller surface area to lose heat from. So I think when it did get hot, I think it had a harder time cooling down. And because the ambient temperature was so hot, but also the humidity was so hot as well, so high, sorry, not only did it make it feel hotter, but things cooled down much slower as well. So I think that was a problem. But I don't think it would have been that unusual for phones of this size to struggle in heat and humidity like that. So, yeah, I don't think it's an entire fail there. But what did happen later on in the year was that this lightning port started failing. I started to have to kind of fiddle around with it quite a lot, get myself a cable that and try and like really squeeze and get it into the right position all the time, which is a real pain. And then eventually I just, no matter how I kind of like wiggled it, it just stopped. It just stopped charging. So I ended up using my MagSafe battery. I don't have it here. My MagSafe battery charger all the time in order to charge this up, because this had just failed completely. Now, this is one of the times where I was really glad that I bought Apple Care. Apple Care had been fantastic. Apple Care, they just kind of like did an online diagnosis via Apple Chat. I said, hey, the USB, the lightning port had just stopped working completely. They did a few diagnosis things, and they just said they'll send me out a replacement with some packaging to send the faulty one back. There was quite a lot of small print telling me, hey, if you're wrong and the fault is not as you described, then you're going to get charged the replacement fee. But, I was pretty confident that they were going to find the same thing I did. And they did. So, yes, Apple Care. I don't buy Apple Care on all my devices. Like I just bought an M2 Mini in September when my iMac failed. That one there, which now has a new hard drive on it, but is like a clean install. But I do for my iPhones. So that I think was a worthwhile purchase. So yeah, I've still got probably about another 10 months on this to run on the warranty. So I won't be replacing my iPhone possibly until the 16. And then depending upon how much of a bump up the 16 is from the 15, I might just pick up a 15 Pro Max cheap next year, secondhand, or on a resale market, on a refurb market, something like that. But anyway, that's my plan at the moment. Hey, Hill Phantom, do I use any drones at all? I'll come back to that if I circle back to that, right? And the running vest as well. Okay, I'll come back to that as well too. So yeah, I probably won't switch from the 13 mini. I will have my eye on what the 16 Pro Max are going to do. I do like the small form factor of the 13 mini, though. I will be sad to see that go. I don't really want to be walking around with two phones. I tend to just be a one phone person. Life is complicated enough without having to kind of like manage two phones like I used to do for work. Don't want to do that anymore. So yeah, no, that's not going to happen. All right. iPhone 13. So yeah, I'm in a little bit of a bind here. This is a little bit of a fail here from Apple. This is an Apple Watch Series 5. This has been great. It took a while for Apple to convince me that an Apple Watch is something that I needed. Before that, I was using Garmin's. I was running quite seriously. I was running marathons and ultra marathons at that point in my life. And that kind of stopped in 2017, which is around about the time that the Apple Series 5 came out, slightly before or after that. I think after that. Can't count back now. So anyway, I've been using Garmin's before that, but then I kind of like wanted something that was more integrated into the Apple ecosystem. I also knew I probably wasn't going to be running marathons for a while. I had one child at that point, but then I got remarried, and then two other kids came along. One is now 6, the other is 4, and my oldest is now about to turn 13. And so I thought, I'm not going to be running so much. One day I'll kind of like pick that back up again, which is imminently. I'll tell you a little bit more about that, Hill Phantom, if you're interested. So yeah, this got the battery has really just like run down on it now. So it's now like at around about 70% or something like that. but trying to organize, yeah, I was running 50K or more. I managed to get on that on, I ran a 50K and a 60K Hill Phantom. But I managed to do it on, I think, one Garmin. It was the 605, I think it was. So it was like one of the more base models, but the battery life on it was like phenomenal. It was really good. Anyway, back to this. 70%, I think it's at now. So a couple of times I've tried to kind of get it serviced by Apple. Now, New Zealand's kind of a small place. There are no Apple stores here. There are, the closest one we have is in Australia. So often any servicing by Apple directly themselves happens from their Australian base. We do have kind of like resellers and certified kind of like repair people here. Every time I tried to book anything with a certified repair people to try and look at it, it was kind of like really impossible to get an appointment. So eventually, sort of like a week before Christmas, I booked it in for a service with Apple themselves. So they were going to send me some packaging to send it back to them. So it's now, I know that it's been public holidays, but immediately after I booked it in, they said, hey, you're going to get a service status email from us and keep checking in. We'll email you within 2 business days with what's going to happen next. Nothing. I've had nothing from them. And it's now, 10 days later, quite a few business days later. Contacted them again via chat, went round and round for a little while, probably about an hour and a half. And then eventually they said, yeah, it doesn't look like the courier has sent out your stuff yet. We don't know why. Can you call them, please? And I was like, no, you can call them. Thanks. I booked it with you. So they're in the middle of trying to do that at the moment. But I am a little bit worried. I am going to Japan in sort of like mid-Feb. I've come to rely upon this within my ecosystem. I think it's really good. I love the Apple Watch now. And particularly when I'm starting running again, like I'm back on the kind of like Couch to 5K program. So I'm running like 3 times a week, just trying to build up my kind of like tendon strength again, just for those impacts. I'm on a running track doing that with slightly softer impact. And after a year and a half of trying to run in Under Armour shoes, I've decided that they're just useless. They're useless for me anyway. I ran in my old Brooks Adrenaline 11th editions, Brooks Adrenaline GTS. 11th edition, which are over 10 years old now, maybe 11 years old now, and it felt perfect. My legs ached in all the right familiar places and not too much, and equally symmetrically, whereas I was getting a lot of right side calf pain and right side calf strains and snaps and tears actually over the last 3 years in Under Armour shoes, and it kind of never really, I thought it was me. I didn't think it was my shoes, but now I'm back in my Adrenaline GTS. I think it is my shoes. And so I literally have just ordered, and they arrived yesterday, my Brooks Adrenaline GTS 21s. So yeah, they're back. Hill Phantom. So this is a New Zealand brand, which I haven't actually gone out and running yet. This has been waiting for me when I start doing my long runs. My last calf tear was when I hit kind of 11K. And, and yeah, so 11K, I had not been doing bent-legged calf raises, which target your soleus muscles. So that's like the kind of the bottom layer of your calf muscles. So you've got the gastrocnemius, which gives the shape to the calf muscle, but the one underneath that is the soleus. And that's the one that kind of like gives you endurance and being able to kind of function correctly over a long period of time. And I hadn't been exercising that enough. It was weak compared to my gastrocnemius. And the physio told me, it's like, typically it tends to give if people have not been exercising that after you sort of like hit 10K in terms of time on your feet. And so, yeah, and that's exactly when it happened. As soon as I hit 11K, the soleus just kind of like went. And then the rehab exercises to kind of recondition my soleus then caused it to tear again, which is just really depressing. And that happened like February last year. I've only really been focusing kind of walking and strengthening. Since then, it's only in the last sort of like 3 or 4 weeks that I've started picking up running again. So back in my Brooks Adrenaline 11th edition. So I'll do my first run tomorrow in the GTS 21s. And this baby is new and just waiting for me to start doing long runs again. I don't think, I'll put that down here. I'll sort it out later. I'm not planning on running marathons again anytime soon, but I used to run half marathons for fun every other weekend. it would be nice to be able to do that once a month again. But, I'm targeting that sort of like towards the back end of this year. At the moment, I just want to be able to run sort of like 5Ks, not particularly fast, but comfortably 3 days a week. That would be really nice. And it would be really nice to have my Apple Watch back again, because one of the things that transformed my running and what really transformed how I use my Apple Watch now is heart rate interval training. So I'm really just trying to target a lot of kind of like time in that zone 2 easy run, which really promotes cardiovascular adaptation very fast. So you get better running for longer distances without having to fuel. And that's how I started kind of like running marathons and ultras, once I understood the physiology of running and how I was running and training too fast. And the way that I can keep that under control is by targeting my heart rate. And then this is triggered to beep at me and tell me to slow down when I hit a certain above a certain heart rate. Garmin's do that all the time. Apple only introduced that, I think, early in 2023. And that was really, really cool. I was like, right, I'm not even going to consider, because I was thinking, do I get rid of my Apple Watch and go back to Garmin? But that kept me within the ecosystem, because I'm not at that point where I'm going to need, super long endurance battery kind of solar Garmin or anything like that. I can't see me getting back into that ultra world anytime soon. There's another story about how I got concussed on a 60K run, 8K in. And then I was so stubborn that I finished the race an hour and a half later than I was supposed to, but ended up in hospital the next day with a concussion, which then took me 6 months to recover from. But that's a story for another day, Hill Phantom. Maybe we can chat about that in another live stream, which is around running tech or something like that. So yeah, an interesting little segue there. So let's go back to my notes. What else am I doing? Here's another big story of 2023. I wonder, cheers, Hill Phantom. I wonder how much you're using generative AI tools in your everyday life. I wonder. So let me know in the chat, if you're still here, how much you're using generative AI tools in your everyday life, like ChatGPT, but there's many variations. It may be Bard, it may be whatever the brand name is on all of these models. But I'm curious, because I'm pretty much, I think, using them most days now in one way or another. Maybe it's kind of like a photo app, which is kind of like redoing me in a different background, or something in my hand, or I'm just playing around with, or something, a good bit for thumbnails and for audio enhancement. Right. I think it's pretty good for thumbnail ideas in particular as well, right? But, I'm using something, there's a really good tool that I'm using called Audio Pen, which is fantastic. And I will do a video this month on how I think that this is a really, really great tool for maybe travelers who have had a long day. They do want to write a diary, but they don't have the energy for it. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do the next day. They're trying to have their dinner. They're trying to get a good night's sleep. They're trying to socialize and do all the other things. This thing enables you just to kind of like just speak a voice note for up to 15 minutes. And for many people, that's just perfectly okay. You can always restart another one. And then it will just summarize it for you. And it will summarize it for you in any kind of style that you want, including your own writing. Now, that has been really good for me, because you could just put in the context of something that you have written yourself, and it will kind of like try to emulate that in a summary of your own travel journal. And I'm sure that there are many, many other use cases for that. So I will show you that Audio Pen tool, which has been really, really good for me. I use that daily. And maybe it's because, I'm kind of like just dumping off some voice notes to myself that I want to write an email for. But I'm saying, hey, can you write this a bit more formally or in bullet points? And it just saves me the time of having to structure and then just format that email, because it's already done for me. And then, it's like all AI. I've heard it described, which I think is a really good description, as like, imagine a junior analyst has joined your team. They're pretty good, but their work needs checking all the time. And you have to be really thorough about that, because you're not absolutely sure about where they got the information from, or whether it's actually a good representation of where they got that information from, what the content was. So you have to check it. But occasionally they'll come up with something that's a little bit left field, which is actually really good and worth investigating, worth pursuing further. And that's how I think of generative AI, as kind of like the weak link in my team, but still a valuable contributor, so long as I check their work. So that for me is how I use generative AI here in late 2023. I use ChatGPT sometimes to summarize my scripts that I write for myself on YouTube so that I can put them on my sarbjohal.com website with a link to my YouTube, which is, helps with like backlinks and SEO and all that kind of like stuff. But it's actually pretty good. I say, look, just draw the 3 main points out of this script, please, and then format it in this way. And it does a really good job of doing it. Not perfect. Again, I have to go in and just kind of like massage and kind of like finesse it because it's not quite right, or it's using weird jargony words which just don't sit right with how I would talk. So yeah, you have to take care in doing that. But yeah, generative AI pretty much has entered my workflow, not necessarily on my personal daily flow every day, but certainly when I travel, it's a really good way of offloading. Hey, what did I do today? Let's make sure all of that is covered so that when I look at this and maybe I'm trying to make a video about it, I know all the cool things that happened that day, and then I can find that footage. So that's really good for me as a creator, as well as someone who may be just after a way of making a travel journal. So yeah, audio pen, generative AI has entered my workflow in here in late 2023. Yeah, I agree. Hill Phantom. It's weird because I think they're kind of like guidelines. There's nothing there that says you actually have to kind of like declare or anything like that at the moment. I haven't read through them in detail. I'm not using AI for my scripts. I'm not using AI for my footage, so none of that kind of like applies to me at the moment. But I imagine that they will do in the future for many, many creators. And this is going to be quite a minefield, I think, how people are going to and how YouTube are going to kind of like regulate and manage that. It's going to be really interesting coming forwards, because I don't think necessarily AI is going to replace creators, but I think that those people who are using AI in the right way as a tool are going to have an advantage. So I think that's where the game is going to be in the future. Keep YouTube human. Yeah. There's a lot of kind of like talking head kind of like videos that are kind of like completely AI driven and AI voiced, which I don't watch. They don't really come into my algorithm because I don't watch them, but I know that they're out there. And yeah, I think it's going to be a rising phenomenon, but I think it will peak and then it will go back. And I think, yeah, there will be a rising kind of like keep YouTube human. Maybe even people start having 2 different kind of like personas. One of them is watching, hey, I just want this for humans and I want this for kind of like interesting AI driven content. Who knows how that's going to shape out. So interesting though. Let's talk about travel and where I went last year and where you went last year. Let me know if you've got interesting travel plans for 2024, but let me review my 2023. Of course, ended up in Japan in one of the hottest times ever in Japan in history, recorded history anyway. So yeah, it was in Tokyo, ended up in Kyoto in the middle of a typhoon, went really far down south to Hiroshima. And all of this was on a 7-day Japan Rail Pass, which I wanted to get in before they start hiking the prices. I think the prices, cheers, Hill Phantom. Catch you, man. Catch you again soon. So yeah, it was just trying to get that trip in before they, I think, almost doubled the price. And it was a fantastic trip. What I would say is that I came back really, really tired. And I think that was the heat. And I was walking 25,000 steps a day on that trip, sometimes 30. And so I lost a lot of fluid. In fact, I spent a lot of my kind of like petty cash on fluids, just trying to keep myself going on kind of like water that had like a whole load of electrolytes and kind of added to it, the odd kind of like kind of cold cafe latte that you get in bottles, the variety of drinks that you can get in Japan in the 7-Elevens and other kind of like convenience stores is just phenomenal and really cool to explore. But I ended up buying a lot of them just because I was so dehydrated all the time. So yeah, if I'm going to go back again, and I'm going in February this year, I'm taking a completely different approach this time, though. I'm going to base myself just in Tokyo. I've got a couple of friends in Tokyo, going to kind of hang out with them a little bit when I can. And then I'm probably going to take two main trips out for like 2 or 3 days at a time, one up to Nikko in the mountains. So there should still be some snow around, which will be interesting. And then I'm going to go to Hakone, which is like on the southwest side of like Tokyo, which is kind of like a volcanic area, volcanic region. And then I'm going to go to Matsuda, which I think in mid-February starts having cherry blossom. I think it's one of the earliest places in Japan that has cherry blossom that early in the kind of like the spring cherry blossom season. I have been to Japan in spring cherry blossom season. It was back in 2009. It was absolutely wonderful. It was lovely to see. So I'm quite keen to try to go to Matsuda to see at least some cherry blossom, because my trip isn't directly kind of like mapping onto the main cherry blossom season. So if I can go to the places where it's coming early, that would be great. Hey, Traveler 11. Now from Andorra. Last time I interacted, I was in Venezuela. Yeah, you were. I remember. Hey, Happy New Year to you too. Yeah, that's fantastic to see you. Thanks for checking in. So yeah, this time in Japan, it's going to be a very, very different kind of trip. But the exciting thing is that when I'm in Japan, I'm going to be doing kind of daily 3-minute vlogs. That's going to be my target. I'm going to be just talking about something that's kind of unique to Japan, or some kind of story-driven vlog that I'm going to do for 3 minutes around there or thereabouts each day that I'm in Japan. So that'll be 13 days of vlogs that I'll be doing. So it's kind of like my Vlogmas, but I'm moving it over to like my trip in Japan instead. So that's going to be fun. That's going to be a little fun challenge for me. And because I'm not going to be traveling so much, I think it's going to be much easier for me to do. I did consider doing it when I was in Japan in August. I'm so glad I didn't, because I was just so busy with just kind of going from A to B and then just kind of recovering in the evenings. And trying to sleep in the heat as well, which was like really difficult. Don't forget this little logo, which was really, really difficult in that heat. Yes, you get air conditioning, but even so, you kind of like your core temperature heats up so much, it takes you quite a long time to cool down to the point where you can sleep comfortably. So yeah, that was tricky. And then 2023, I went to the UK, and that wasn't a work trip. That was actually quite a challenging trip with 3 kids, my wife, of course, and that was good in some respects, that we got to see my parents, and my parents got to meet my youngest kid, our youngest kid, for the first time. But if they don't cope that well with kind of like changes of circumstances or changes of places. And of course, you know, to my youngest one and to the 6-year-old, my parents were kind of like a little bit like strangers to them. So it took a long time, and we were really cramped in a house that's normally has 2 people living in it, suddenly had 7 people living in it. So space became quite an issue. And one of the things that my wife and I did, which is I would advise anybody who's in this sort of circumstance where they're traveling with a family and that you're going to see relatives, you may be in this situation now over New Year's, or you maybe have just done it over the Christmas or Thanksgiving period, is that if you're going to be there for an extended period of time, what my wife and I did was every 5 or 6 days, there was a hotel just down the road. Now in the UK, you'll know the chain Premier Inn, right? It's kind of cheap. It kind of like it's marketed on having a good sleep experience. And often there's kind of like a beefeater pub attached to it next door, which is kind of like, you know, hearty, kind of like, you know, okay food for you to eat. It's not particularly healthy, but, you know, it hits the spot, particularly if you're feeling like tired and you just want something that's going to fill your belly so you can go to sleep. So what we did is that we booked every 5 to 6 days, because I was sleeping on the floor on a mat all the other time that we were in the house, so that we can have some alone time ourselves, but also get a decent night's sleep. And talking with other parents, they're like, that's a fantastic idea. We should do that as well when we're in this situation. And it was great for us. So yeah, if you're in that situation, or even if you're just by yourself and you need to kind of like, yeah, you want to see your family, but you're kind of like overspending so much time with them, book yourself, if you can, cheap Airbnb or a cheap hotel, cheap B&B, cheap, or even a hostel, a private room in a hostel, and then just have some of your own time, your own space, if you're in a position where you can afford that. This, you know, Premier Inns are cheap. We booked them like early, and I think we paid maybe the equivalent of like 80 or 90 US dollars, Like that was the most expensive. Some of the nights were like 60 or 70 US dollars. It was pretty cheap. And then one night they mucked up our booking, and then they not terribly, like they managed to sort it out, but then they just gave us kind of like, free breakfast the next day. And it's like kids eat free as well. So we went home and we got the kids and we all went for breakfast. So yeah, who knows what's going to happen. That can sort itself out. But yeah, you get some nice bonuses sometimes. But to be honest, it was a difficult trip enough anyway. And without that, I'm not sure how we would have got through it as intact as we did. But we did do the trip and we got back home and everything is kind of like nice and smooth again. Hey, Traveler 11. Yeah, we'll have to do this in Sweden in 2 weeks when it's time to travel to family, then Venezuela again. Totally understand. Yeah, it is tricky, right? You kind of like, you have obligations, not just obligations, you really do want to spend time with them, but just not all the time, day after day. That can be hard, particularly when you're an independent adult by yourself, or you've got your own family routines, right? And they all get thrown out when you're in somebody else's house. And the kids really struggle because the normal routines have to be adapted. And that's okay for a couple of days. But then when you're doing that for like 2-3 weeks at a time, it kind of mounts up, and then their behavior starts to kind of like really kind of like start getting really wacky, and then you start getting cranky because their behavior is wacky, but you're also in kid mode because you're in your parents' house, so you're kind of like trying to balance that off as well. It gets really, really complicated. So yeah, just having some time to have some like space to yourself, I found like an absolute lifesaver, and I think that you might too. So yeah, that's my travel tip. If you have to go back and see relatives and parents, book some time alone by yourself, and not just for coffee. Like just do the whole night, and then come back the next day, 7 o'clock in the morning. I used to get up like at 6 in the morning, walk back home, and so I could be there for when the kids woke up, and then they could have their breakfast with like, and then my wife and I would take it into, no, actually my wife just got the lie into the hotels because she was carrying a lot of load. She ended up doing the trip by herself with the two youngest ones a week early. And so, yeah, I was like, yeah, no, you get the lions because, you did that and I didn't have to do that. So you get the lions. So yeah, that's what we did. Travel 11, 6 weeks. My God, 6 weeks. Like I thought 3 was bad. If I had to double that time, I don't know what I'd do. That's crazy. Like my sister lived down the road, but we had no transport to get to her. So down the road, I mean, like it's like 45 minutes on the motorway, but we had no car. So yeah, that's tricky. Which Travel 11, maybe I said this already, which vlogging camera was best in 2023 and why? Well, that's interesting, right? So I ran through what my choices were, and there were 3, but for various different reasons. Just to recap briefly, I still think if you want a light and nimble vlogging device, you don't need an external mic, then the Go 3 is really hard to beat. Just because it is so small and versatile. It's really, really small, particularly like the Go 3 Black Edition, which is out now. This is now kind of like the premium kind of like portable vlogging device, just because it is so versatile for me. But having said that, the Ace Pro is now kind of like the ultimate hybrid device, I think, for me. This is like an action camera. It's maybe not quite as robust as the GoPro Hero 12 Black, depending upon your use case. But I think this has got some really incredible, nice features in it. It is considerably bigger than the Go 3. So if you just want a vlogging device and you're okay with 2.7K, which I am, or kind of like free frame at 1440p, which again, I am okay with that, then this might be perfectly suitable for you. If you want something a bit bigger, better, more robust, able to be used in different ways, and really good for low light shooting, then the Ace Pro might be the best thing for you and the most future-proof thing for you. However, what we've got with the Go 3 Black is being able to take this camera unit out, magnetically mount it, really easy to get very different point of view shots on it. So if you want something that's like kind of low hassle and you don't need anything else because everything comes pretty much in the box that you're going to need, then this is a really good self-contained, cost-efficient device, I think. This, you're going to have to shell out a bit more for accessories, and I will make a video on the accessories that I think you need to get the best out of this camera, the Ace Pro. I will make that video this month. But it's also, I think, the most potential for increasing value to your video. So things like GPS overlays and stuff like that. You can do that with the Go 3 a little bit, but you can't really to the extent that you can with the Ace Pro. So yeah, they're the choices that I think you've got. But also, I think this is really underrated. This, if you've got a phone that you like filming with, you like the look of what it looks like when it comes out of your phone, the video. This with an external mic, if you need that external mic, is fantastic. So this is the Insta360 Flow gimbal, and the reason why I like it, two main reasons. One is the built-in tripod, means that as a travel vlogging device, it really does cut down on what it is you need to have in your bag. Plus, you can get it going with auto gestures, with your hand gestures. You can get it filming and stopping filming, which you can with the Ace Pro too. But also the fact that you can use this as a mobile charging bank as well, which you can't do with other smartphone gimbals. This you can use to charge up your phone on the go, so you're never out of juice because there's a big battery in here. So that, I think, is the choices for me in terms of what I would think about. Travel 11 is the Ace Pro waterproof. Yes, it is to 10 meters, I believe. Osmo Pocket 3, I'm also using the Go 3. Yeah, Osmo Pocket, I had the first one. I haven't got the Osmo Pocket 2 or 3. The Osmo Pocket 3 does look like an interesting device. A bit worried about that screen. I've read a little bit about that screen, kind of like not being particularly robust. So that's really interesting. I'll be interested in your experience on that. You painted yours black, your Go 3. What did you use? Interesting, because a few people have said that to me in comments. So I'm interested in what you did use and how you're finding it, if you have painted it black. Yeah, so I hope that helps. And then you would have seen, back to travel, you would have seen the day trip, maybe if you saw my video, which came out maybe about 2 weeks ago, on my day trip to Nelson, where that clasp on my Go 3 got yanked out. It got twisted. So somebody was coming past me, and I just happened to be holding my Go 3 here, and then the backpack dragged it against the seat, and it got wedged, and then the backpack wrenched it like this, and then it fell off the clamp, the tripod. And so this clamp got bent out of shape. It was quite a shearing force. It was like, a big bag that they were carrying around there, and it got kind of like trapped and wedged. So I ended up having to kind of like, because this is a plastic case, I couldn't kind of put it in a clamp or anything like that because I was worried about breaking the case. And I couldn't get pliers in here because there's no kind of like leverage room. So I ended up having to press against it really hard in my hand with a rock. Can you believe that? Just a rock. And I just pressed that in there, and I got it closed up enough such that the clamp closed again on it, and it's really firm. You'll see the video how firm it's back again. I wouldn't say it's back to normal, but I would say it's a decent repair job, but kind of a botch as well. So yeah, I'm not like super confident with this. Unfortunately, it's my 128 gig version that got kind of like munted on this trip. But yeah, it was a freak accident, and I don't think it's the camera's fault. I don't think it was built to withstand that kind of shearing, twisting force put on it by somebody not just brushing past you, but jamming it against like an immovable object and then twisting it off. Yeah. So yeah, that's what happened there. So yeah, Nelson was great though, but I am going to go back. I'm going back on the 24th of January. I'm really looking forward to this. I have booked already an e-bike for the day and got a really nice itinerary sorted out, going out to like a little kind of like a ferry port and doing some really nice country rides as well. So I will have both the Ace Pro and the Go 3 with me, and you'll be able to compare that footage as to what you think you might prefer. But also the use cases as well. I'll use them in different ways, so you'll be able to see and compare and make a choice. If you're thinking about what's going to be your travel vlogging camera, which one is going to be best for you. So yeah, you can look forward to that video. Probably going to produce that around about the end of this month, beginning of next month. The trip itself is on January 24th. Travel 11, acrylic paint used. Okay, I put a toothpick to cover the microphone and not to splatter with paint. Good idea. Yeah, the black only came out real recent. I know they did it like a special Minions kind of like version of the Go 2 as well. but I think the Go 3 Black is going to be much more popular than that. I know a few people were a little bit annoyed that the Go 3 Black came out so long after they'd already bought the white, because they said if they had the choice at the beginning, they would have chosen the black. Me too. I would have chosen the black too. So yeah, not ideal. The Osmo Pocket is great. You can adjust settings so you don't need to flip the small screen. Okay, so that's okay. But like, I guess the whole point of the Osmo Pocket 3, and one of the big things was to be able to frame it in that way for that screen. So it's interesting, there's a way around it. So did you get, I think, is there a creator kind of like pack where you can get the DJI Mic 2 with the Osmo Pocket 3? Because that would be awesome. Like, I think, I don't know, I read something about that, because if you can get that on a deal, I would be interested, because I'm interested in the DJI Mic. And if there's a Mic 2, oh, you did get that. Wow. And how did you find the Mic 2? Did you have the DJI Mic before? Creator combo. Okay, I might have a look out for that. It is the Mic 2. Okay. Did you have the DJI Mic before Traveler 11? It's flawless. Yeah, I can bet. You know, I would love to have a Mic 2 in my kit. I like the Flame X5, but you know, the Mic 2 is the top, right? It's the apex. It's the creme de la creme. It's better, faster. Well, man, you're selling it to me. Have you got an affiliate link? Because I might end up buying one. Yeah, this is yeah. So yeah, anyway, I'm probably in the market for a Mic 2. I will maybe even buy that separately, because I do need something in my kit. The Flame X5 is good. I would be really interesting to put that up against the Mic 2 and using that. Hey, Coach Adam. Happy New Year, mate, to you as well. Thank you. And all the best to you and your family as well. It's lovely to see you here. Thanks for dropping in. So yeah, the Mic 2 and the Osmo Pocket 3. I'm not absolutely sold on the Osmo Pocket 3. I don't think I need another device. If DJI wanted to send me one and do a comparison, that would be fantastic. Might get one myself. There might be some value there for you as well, for me to do those kind of comparison videos, maybe. But the Mic 2, that's different. I do want to get my hands on one of those. The Mic 2 can be used as a remote to turn on and off the camera. Right. That is interesting. You're in the market, Coach Adam, for an M3 MacBook Pro. Wow, that's high spec. That is high spec. I would love a MacBook M3 Pro, but I don't know if you've heard, Coach Adam, but there's a lot of kind of talk about how there are going to be M3 MacBook Airs coming out, possibly even first quarter 2024. So I don't know if you've heard that and whether that might change your mind on what it is that you need. What do you think you need a Pro for that an Air would not kind of like be okay for you? Is it the additional processing power, but plus the additional RAM and all the other stuff that comes with the Pro? I'm wondering what you're thinking about that. You have the Osmo Pocket 1. Yeah, me too. Even after 3 months, it ended up in my drawer, forgotten get. Yeah, I didn't use it that much. To be honest, I find portable gimbals at that size with the small screen difficult. So that's why the bigger screen on the Osmo Pocket 3 was kind of like interesting to me. But you know what I found really difficult about the Osmo Pocket and why I didn't really use it that much was that the iPad Pro, and all of my mobile editing is on iPad Pro, because all of my editing is mobile. I don't use Adobe or anything like that. I use LumaFusion on iPad Pro. It really hated the files. So I had to go through another step of converting those DJI files into a file format that the iPad would use. Now, I'm not sure whether they've changed that, but that's really off-putting to me in terms of like the compatibility of their files for me to be able to edit it on an iPad Pro. And to be honest, that's why I didn't look at the Pocket 2, and I'm not so keen on the Pocket 3, because that's why I won't use it, because I want something easy that's going to just kind of like be able to transfer those files between my devices easily, and I'm just going to be able to use them without me having to take that extra step and using the extra space in order to convert it. So that was really off-putting to me. Okay, yeah, right. But I run Ecamm Live, Coach Adam, which uses a lot of CPU, and the fan keeps it cool. Right, yeah, so the fan is interesting, right? Because the M3, the MacBook Airs don't have a fan. That's kind of like one of their kind of like features. But if you're using, I'm not sure how resource intensive Ecamm Live is. I have used some Ecamm products. I think I mucked around with Ecamm Live for a bit. I don't do live streams enough for me to kind of like invest in software to do that, particularly a subscription model. But if you are using Ecamm Live, I can see why you might want something that's going to be able to deal with that processing over a long period of time. So yeah, that's interesting. I wonder how well optimized it might be for a MacBook Air environment running M3. That could be worth keeping your eye on. The extra ports, yeah, I understand. I hear you with that as well. Yeah, I wish that there were extra ports. I have a couple of, additional dongles like this one, which I use with my iPad Pro, which has got USB-A, another USB-C, and then the mini SD and SD card readers, a little bit old, but also HDMI in here as well. I picked this up for like the equivalent of what, $15 US dollars here in New Zealand, maybe a bit less actually. So yeah, but it's another piece of kit that you have to kind of carry around with you in your MacBook kind of case too. Oh, okay, that's good to know. Traveler 11, you could just drop the files in iPad files with USB-C. I could do that with the USB Pocket. I could take it off. It's just that LumaFusion didn't like those files to be able to edit with them, and they were quite big. So yeah, I'd have to do some more investigation on the LumaFusion community to understand whether it was worth me kind of like committing the money to it, because I wouldn't really want to buy it and then have to return it. That's a pain in a small country like New Zealand. It can be because often they're kind of like could take a week or two to get here, and then a week or two to send it back and get the refund and all the rest of it. Yes, there's so much hype right now. I think many folks bought it just because of all the attention for the Osmo 3. Is that right, Coach Adam? Is that what we're talking about, or are we talking about the MacBook M3 Pro? Because yeah, there was a lot of hype about it. For me, I was always going to wait. I actually am looking forward to what the iPad Pro offerings are going to be like, or even the iPad Air offerings are going to be like next year, because I think they kind of got a little bit complicated and messed up in their iPad range and offerings. I think there's not a compelling reason to buy an iPad Pro at the moment when the iPad Air does quite a lot of what you might want an iPad Pro to do, including having a USB-C port. So it will be interesting to see how they rework that offering for the entry-level iPad, iPad Air, and then iPad Pro with the different sizes as well. So I'm keeping a close eye on that, because I updated my iPad, I think iPad Pro in 2020. It's an M1, and it's perfect. It does everything fine. So if I skipped another year, it would be perfectly okay. It renders like lightning on LumaFusion. It's one of the reasons why I really like it. I don't have, it takes 6 tracks audio, 6 tracks video. I very rarely use more than 3 or 4 of both of those. So yeah, it would be interesting to me to see what an M3 offering might look like, but I'd be also interested to see one of the things I like with the Pro is that I can get the keyboard with it. So I have the kind of like the Magic Keyboard thingy set up with my iPad Pro here, which you can't get with the iPad Air. You use a different kind of like a keyboard. I think it's not the same dimensions. So that's why I got this. This is fantastic. I've written books on this. It's just really, really good as a travel device for productivity, but also for leisure as well. So for me, it's kind of like the combination. And it'd be interesting as well to see how Mac OS and iPad OS shape up this year with the M3 processor. What's the differentiation between those two products that's going to drive me maybe to use one or the other? I have kind of like thought about using things like Descript, which I've used, which you can't use on iPad. You have to use a MacBook for that. There's a few other things that are kind of like MacBook specific that make me think maybe I need to get a MacBook. But again, kind of want to minimize the number of devices that I have. I don't really have a MacBook at the moment. I have my old MacBook 11-inch is like maybe 10 years old now. Yeah, I don't really use MacBooks anymore. That's an old MacBook Air. So yeah, it's really good, but I can't update it to the newest operating systems now. Let me just catch up with the chat. You're on Final Cut. You don't know about LumaFusion in this case. Yeah, I've thought about jumping onto like Final Cut Pro, But again, I just want to keep everything mobile. Final Cut Pro for iPad is meh. It's okay. It doesn't do anything apart from like some gimmicky stuff like being able to write on your video. Not really that fussed about that. It's kind of nice to have, but again, I don't want to take a workflow where I do that in Final Cut Pro for iPad and then kick it out and then use it in LumaFusion. Degrades the video quality, and it's just too much work for not added value, really. So yeah, and I'm kind of still convinced I'm staying on the iPad because I like the pencil, and that's the big differentiation for me. Is I edit a lot with the pencil. If the MacBook Air came up with a touchscreen where you could use a pencil or reverse it around and use it like a tablet, maybe. But I normally use it with the iPad in the Magic Keyboard, and I edit with my pencil using that format, and I'm really used to it, and I love it, and I don't edit using a keyboard. So yeah, the pencil is really integral for my feel. And when I try and do it otherwise, it doesn't feel right. I like the feel. I like the real hands-on feel when I'm editing with a pencil. And for me, that's like gold. Like I get deeply sucked into my edit when I'm doing it that way. And I'm fiddling around with keyboard shortcuts. I don't feel particularly involved with the edit. I feel too much like a technician rather than actually thinking about what is this video doing. Yeah. Yeah, Coach Adam, running an M1 2018 MacBook Pro. It's getting long in the tooth. Yep. Typically get a new machine every 5 years. Yep, I hear you with that. Just got this M2 MacBook, Mac Mini, which is probably, I was like, that's going to last me 3, 4, maybe 5 years pushing it out. But it was kind of like a stopgap for me. I was like, I wonder what the iMac line is going to look like in a little while. For me, it's kind of okay at the moment. I want to see where they're going to go with that. So the Mac Mini for me was the best bang for buck for what I wanted it to do. And I've got a separate monitor for that now. But I still do have this kind of iMac as a kind of like a backup device here, which is like a really big 27-inch iMac, which is, I like the big screens. You're on a MacBook M1 2020 Traveler 11. Yeah, better machine so it'll last me. Budgeted, it's sort of expensive but planned for. Yeah, I'm the same with Macs. That's my home machine, right? So an M2 Mini was fine. I was like, well, the M3 is going to be coming out soon, but in the mini format, probably not. I don't really want to buy a MacBook Pro. I'm kind of like, should I have waited for the MacBook Air M3 and then use that to mirror onto a monitor? But I needed a computer then, right? I couldn't wait until Q1 2024 because that one blew up. So I needed something there and then, and so that I'm fine with that. You bought your wife the 2020 MacBook Air. She loves it. She won't let you use it. Yeah, I get it. Okay, Travel 11, let's talk LumaFusion. Can you be totally on the iPad? Yeah, you can be totally on the iPad with LumaFusion. What are the pros and cons? The cons, let's see. It doesn't really have speed ramping in the way that you can do that on other things, like on CapCut or on Final Cut Pro or on Adobe. You can't do that. It doesn't have, you can't import templates. You have to kind of like create your own. There are a few that you can do, but they're more kind of like color grading or transitions, right? If you wanted to do like a particular template for an intro or something like that, there are guides that you can use. There are some that you can, but it's limited. You can't really import that many third-party kind of like enhancements for LumaFusion. So that can be a little bit of a pain. But if you invest a little bit of time, you can custom make your own kind of like lower thirds and transitions. There's something that I still need to work on in LumaFusion. It always gets pushed to the back of the queue because I'm always overtaken with kind of like actually producing videos. So yeah, it still works for me right now. But there is limited capacity to buy those third-party enhancements on LumaFusion. Having said that, I believe in the LumaFusion team. They're really good, but they are slow. So they say that they are going to do kind of like a release, and then months later you're still waiting. So they brought out multicam this year. It's kind of okay as a I don't really use it. I tried implementing it once on one video. It wasn't really worth the time that it took in order for me to actually produce that video in that way. What it is good for is for syncing audio. So if you do want to use an external mic and you want that synced with the internal mic that you had off a phone, and it can do that really, really easily using that multi-cam kind of capsule. So it's like an edit within an edit, but it's also a little bit fiddly in how that works, and you have to kind of get used to it. So that's kind of like pros and cons there. There's some good points and bad points. So yeah, I do believe in the product. It's a really stable product. I really like it. But the development time for new features can be slow. And I think it's because it's a small team. They don't charge a lot for the product either. It's not a subscription. It's a one-off purchase, which I really, really like. And every now and again, maybe once or twice a year, they'll bring out a new feature, which you may have to pay a one-off for. There are other things that you do have to pay in-app subscriptions for, but I don't really use any of those. I don't find them kind of like super critical. You want to edit my videos only, your videos only on iPad? Is it possible? Yeah, all of mine are. I mean, if you like my videos, then yeah, it's kind of, you can see it's possible. It's all on iPad. I might bring in some third-party stuff, but I can do that on Canva on my iPad, export it into my folder with all my other stuff, and then bring it in. So like, my titles. I bring in with the green screen, I can key out the green screen, and then you just see the titles coming across the screen. So yeah, you can do it totally on iPad. And with Canva, you can then also bring in B-roll as well from that. You've already paid for it with your annual subscription on Canva. So yeah, you can do it totally on iPad with an internet connection, right? But LumaFusion itself doesn't need an internet connection for you to do that. And I export it straight out to YouTube in 4K. So that works really well. Whoa, where's that gone? There it is. Did you try out Final Cut Pro on the iPad for comparison? Yeah, I did. And there's a video on that on my channel. You can have a quick look. It was just kind of like a first impressions thing. I didn't really go any deeper. I think I had the free 28-day kind of like complimentary subscription from Apple. I didn't bother renewing it for the yearly subscription. It was kind of okay. I'll keep an eye on it to see if it's worthwhile doing that in the future. But I found Final Cut Pro more flexible for my needs. Sorry, Final Cut Pro, LumaFusion, I mean. Yeah, Coach Adam, I agree with you. I did play with Descript. LumaFusion is very slick. Descript is probably not, again, it's the workflow. I don't really want to be going out onto my MacBook, my Mac here, my desktop Mac to edit and then kick that stuff out into LumaFusion. That's one of the things, again, another con is that you can export from LumaFusion to Final Cut Pro on your desktop. So you can start on LumaFusion and then finish on Final Cut Pro, but you can't do it the other way around. You can't export from Final Cut Pro or any other desktop app into files that are LumaFusion, into a project that LumaFusion then can then import. That would be really good if you could do that. I would like that. So yeah, that would be really good. What else was I going to talk about? I'm just aware of time. This is a lovely chat though. Really enjoying it. Thanks for hanging around. I'm going back to UK again after Japan in February. I'm going to the UK in April. This time I'm just taking the oldest one with me because she didn't get a lot of time to hang out with her cousins, particularly the older cousin who's the same age as her. And so we're coinciding that with a week that my daughter is off, but also my nephew is off as well. So they're going to have some time to kind of hang out and maybe do something during that time. So that'd be really good. I'll come back to you, Coach Adam, in terms of the shorts game. So yeah, that's what's in April. And then I've got trips to Christchurch and then also kind of like the playground that is Queenstown later on in the year as well. And that's what I've got pegged in up until, I think, July next year. And then from then on, I'm still trying to figure out what might happen. It might be back to the UK later on in the year. My parents are getting a little bit older now. I want to see them as much as possible. But I might try and book in a couple of side trips in Europe as well to catch up with some friends who I haven't seen for years, but also just something different to do. It's really hard to get to Europe from here in New Zealand. but that's dependent on flight prices dropping. It's still super expensive. There still aren't that many airlines compared to pre-blip operating in New Zealand, and flight prices, fuel prices are still really, really high. So that might limit my ability to do that. Kind of depends on how the channel goes as well. If I'm earning a bit more revenue from the channel, then it might help to fund that kind of like stuff. Yeah, I do travel at 11. Got some nice travel up my sleeve. And I kind of need that these days. I need sort of like things to kind of look forward to, as well as kind of my regular content that I'm kind of putting out on my channel twice a week. I love vlogging. I love going to places that I've been to before that are familiar, but also exploring new places in those old places, but also going to newer places as well. So I'm really looking forward to going to Tokyo. It's the biggest city, mega city in the world. There's so much to do and see there. And so I love being there, and it's lovely to know Japanese people and have Japanese friends, so that I can, get my fix of like, just hanging out with people that I know, as well as kind of like the adventurous new stuff as well. Moving to Porto in April. Interesting. Oh man, yeah, I might do. I was thinking about maybe Portugal. So yeah, I will do Traveler 11. That's really cool. Thank you. Hey Maya, nice to see you. I love Tokyo. It's amazing. Yeah, it is. It is amazing. I love that city so much. I love Japan in full stop, but Tokyo is just such an incredible city, district to district, as you move around, how it changes. So I'm looking forward to diving a bit more into places that I haven't been to. And because I'm starting to run again, I'm looking forward to, like, there's a running club called Nambam.org. So I might contact them, but they also have park runs. I don't know if you're familiar with the park run concept. This is kind of like a free 5K run that happens on a Saturday morning worldwide. It was originally sponsored by Nike. I think they still have something to do with it. I'm not sure. But it's a really lovely way for the local community to come together, and you can run that 5K how you want to do it, right? So you can either walk it with friends, and it's just a way for you to come together and have coffee whilst you're going for a walk for 5K, or you can just treat it like a serious run, or somewhere in between. So for me, it would be a really interesting way to kind of like come together with the running community. The Tokyo Marathon is happening just after I'm in Tokyo. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to participate in any of the pre kind of events, because I think they're happening just after I leave. But it'd be really interesting, because running is big in Japan. Like, you have to, it's kind of like the US and UK. You have to register like 6-7 months in advance for you to get on a particularly popular event. I think I was reading the Tokyo Marathon has something like 380,000 applicants every year to run in it. I'm not sure how many people actually run in it. I have run in the Berlin Marathon, which was 30,000 people running. I've run in the London Marathon, and I've run in our other marathons where there's like in New Zealand, where there's like maybe 300 people running total in the whole of the marathon, compared to 30,000 in, one of the World Series, big marathons. So yeah, it'll be interesting, I think, to run. And that's what I kind of like used to do before, like a couple of more kids used to come along. I used to go for a run in California, sometimes an organized one, on my stopover on the way to the UK. So yeah, running and traveling for me is like really integrated. I think it's a really interesting way to meet people in the places that you're traveling to, but also a really interesting insight into kind of like the culture of running and how it differs in different countries that you go to. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting lens through which to look at travel, as well as keeping yourself kind of like fresh and fit during your travel as well. So that's fantastic. Travel 11, you did 2 marathons. It was 7 years ago now. Yeah, my last marathon was 2017. It was the Hanma Alpine Mountain Marathon, which was my last marathon. It's 2017. I was okay on the uphills, but there was an absolute killer downhill for a very, very long way at the end, which my legs were not happy about. My quads, I walked most of it because my quads were just killing me. I was pretty out of condition then. I was kind of like, I didn't train as hard for that marathon as I had done for others. And I think it was my first marathon that I ever was over 5 hours for. I've got one that's like sub 4 hours. I had one that was like 4 hours 1 minute. The rest are kind of like in the 4 hours 10 minutes kind of mark. But this one was like 5 hours 7 minutes or something like that. And that was totally the downhill, because I can see my split times, and the downhill just absolutely killed me. But yeah, I kind of like, I didn't love them at the time, I don't think, running marathons, but you kind of get over that. I'll tell you the story about the ultra marathon I ran where I knocked myself out after 8K, but still got to the 60K mark probably about 2 hours later than I thought I was going to, and then ended up in hospital the next day, being checked out for concussion, and then taking 6 months to recover from that. But that's another day. You drop running. Yeah, yeah, my bucket list goal was to run 10. So I ran 10 marathons and ultra marathons. I was so determined to do it. I actually ran a marathon before my actual first marathon. I remember doing 44K going, okay, now I know personally that I can do it. So now I can go to Berlin Marathon knowing that I can do it. I didn't want it to be a mystery for me to be like, well, I don't know if I can do it because the furthest I've run is 32K. No, I wanted to have run 42K before I ran 42K officially. So yeah, bucket list thing for me too. I ended up doing 10, and then yeah, the Hanmer Alpine Mountain Marathon was number 10, and then I was like, that's it for a while. May never come back to it again, and I'll be cool with that. I'd love to be able to run half marathons easily again. I don't really care about the time. I'm a mid-pack runner. I love the mid-pack running culture. I love people just kind of like talking about their kit or talking about the runs that they've done. They're not that fussed about the time that they're going to get, so long as within a certain window. Some people are running PBs at the time. They want to try and get a PB, and other people are just there for the ride. And I'm kind of like, I'm there for the ride. I'm there for the community. That's why I love running. You ran the Chicago Marathon in 2012. Amazing experience, great city, entirely flat. Chicago Marathon's on my list. If I ever get a chance to run another one, or even just the half on that course, I'd love to do that. Entirely flat sounds great. It sounds fantastic. You did the Marine Corps Marathon in Washington twice, all from the back of the pack. Awesome. Awesome. I love that. I love that. Yeah. Can't explain to other people. Running with thousands of people is, yeah, it is a feeling that's hard to describe. I agree with you. It is. You just get into the flow, and that's the flow and the energy of people. Yeah. And I think I miss that. That's what I miss about running here in New Zealand. There's maybe like 2 or 3 events per year where there's like a ton of people who turn up, like the Auckland Marathon, which I haven't done, the half marathon. My wife's done the half marathon. And there's the Queenstown Marathon. And I did the inaugural Queenstown Marathon, but it was awful, awful weather. I think I just ran the half. And I ended up like with almost like verging on exposure. That's how bad the wind and the kind of like hail and sleet and rain were. It was terrible. It was a terrible day. But it was, again, it's just that experience of you doing it with other people. I've done the Great Barrier Island Marathon here in New Zealand, but again, it's a really small event. These like, hundreds of people compared to tens of thousands of people, which is a very, very different experience. And I was saying to my wife the other day, one of the things that I kind of like miss about running in bigger places is not just the running, it's the whole expo experience beforehand, right? You turn up maybe 2 or 3 days before the actual event, you pick up your race number, and there's all these like, stalls of like all the running companies, and there's like tons of people walking around getting gear, but they're excited, and there's a buzz. The energy is starting to build up then. And then you've got 2 or 3 days where that energy and that buzz is going to carry you through to the event. And I remember like being in the Berlin Marathon, and I was stood in the start line. I'd never run like a big event like this. I'd run a few bigger sort of half marathon events in my training plan for peaking for the Berlin Marathon, but I was running most of my long runs alone, my really long runs. Being part of a running club, I think, also was transformative for me. Being in London, I was part of the Serpentine Running Club, which is just great. And occasionally, I haven't done it for a while, but I'd like to go for a run with them again. You can just show up if you're like an ex-member and run as a guest, a couple of times. I love that. But yeah, there is something about that energy that just takes you through, which I just can't access here in New Zealand, which I really, really miss. So yeah, the next time I'm in the UK, I will probably try and, in April, I'll probably start scanning now. It's a good reminder, actually. Thank you, Traveller11. I'd forgotten that. I need to start scanning now for events that I can run that are not just park runs in England. I think I'd like that experience again. Have you considered bringing running tech into my channel? Yes, possibly. Probably more than 6 hours. Yeah, whatever, man. It's the experience, right? For me, yeah, I love running around. Anything slower than that kind of like, it's really interesting, right? Like when I started running, I noticed that my body likes to run in the sort of like 5-minute 40 to 5-minute 50 kilometers per hour kind of like cadence, running speed. And the cadence is around about 170, 180 per minute. And that's my happy place. That's where my body likes it. And so that translates into around about a 4 hour 20 marathon. So if I want to run quicker than that, I have to train specifically for it. But if I just want to kind of like cruise, then that's where I am, right? That's where my body's happy place is. And everybody's body's happy place is a different place. But I remember I was thinking, do I want to be fast or do I want to have a good time? And that's kind of like one of the decisions you need to make when you're running long distance. And that determines how much training you're going to put in and how much time you want to put into that training, because it does take a lot of time to train for a marathon if you want to run fast. But I want to run kind of a little bit fast, but also I want to have a good time. So I want to be able to finish the marathon and I feel comfortable and I'm not going to ache for like horrible and I'm not going to hate it. Right. And so that's for me is like, I don't want to hate it. I don't want to have a bad time. And so I run at the speed which is my body's happy place. So that's really for me how I do it. Traveler 11, 5 hours 2 minutes first time, had a sub 5 hour goal, so I had to do it again. Second time's 4 hours. That's a big difference. Well done, you. First time Berlin. Yeah, man. I remember standing in the queue in Berlin. It was a horrible day. It rained. I remember being soaking wet. I was just like standing in the rain for an hour in my pen, right? So you got your proposed finish time where you think you're going to be. I went into the kind of like 4 hour. I managed to do 3:52, 3:52:57. I've never beaten that. But I was like in the 4 hour pen and I was there for an hour in the rain before I got through the start line. So if you think about that, how much time you're actually on your legs, because you're standing in that time and you're getting cold as well. So yeah, I remember like getting into that sort of like that third quarter of the marathon, and I was kind of like I was on time and I was on my gels and everything, and I just remember I was gritting my teeth, going, "I'm on time. I'm going to go sub 4 hours. You need to get through this bit." And it was the people, it was the crowds that got me through that third quarter. So I think that's the other thing that's really good about the big events is the people who come out to watch you and to support you. And I really, really miss that. Again, about running in those bigger events, because it's not just the crowds that you're running with, it's the crowds who are around, who is out there supporting you and for their city or for their family. But, you're running past and you get that energy too. I love that. Not talented in running, proud of your slow. Me too, man. I didn't start I hated running when I was a kid. I didn't start running until I was 40. I'm 54 now. And I haven't run since 2017. So you can see like my running career is actually quite short, but it's all like above 40 years old. And I was so bad when I first started. I couldn't run for more than about a minute without getting shin splints. And it was, that part of it was like how I was running, what my mental attitude to running was, what I was trying to achieve, but the gear I was wearing as well. I think I was saying it, you may have missed it at the beginning of all this, but my shoes were completely wrong in the last sort of like year or two when I've been trying to get back to running. So there's lots and lots of things that kind of like come into that. But yeah, I'm proud to be a mid-pack runner. I'm never going to probably beat that 3:52:57 because I don't have the time to put that kind of like training in. By the time I do, I'm going to be considerably older. So yeah, it's all about you and what you're comfortable, what you're trying to achieve. And everybody's different. And I love that about running, because everybody's creating their own story, but together, right? And that's the really beautiful thing about it. I have thought about bringing running tech into it, but I just want to I think I want to bring the running as a way of traveling. I think I'm going to bring that into it and then some tech into that, like with the Apple Watch and like with, maybe travel shoes, thinking about running gear as well for when you're traveling and how to minimize that, right? I don't want to be running with like a ton of gear. How do I minimize my gear when I want to run when I'm traveling too? Because yeah, you bring those kind of like habits and passions with you when you're traveling, especially if you're going away for like 2, 3, 4 weeks. You want to kind of like bring that stuff with you as well. You don't want to like jettison your life completely. You want to bring the best bits of it so you can enjoy the best bits of your life in new circumstances. That's the great thing. Where we run, Sarb, Portugal. Yeah, well, that's cool. At the moment I run on the south coast of Wellington, which is beautiful. Very windy though, so you get a headwind. But at the moment, to be honest, all of my running is track-based because I just want the systematic routine of being able to just build up my running again without too many other things, other variables that I'm trying to like deal with. I'm just trying to deal with the time that I'm working and the time that I'm recovering. And that's easy for me to do on a track. I hated track-based running until, again, I was 40 and I joined a running club, and it became fun. Became fun to run kind of like speed play intervals on a track. And now I run like really systematic running intervals on a track as well. And I stick to track 5, and it's great. I love it. You're soon 45, travel 11, not super fast anymore. You need to prepare this time. I can't imagine not preparing myself. So if you've been doing this without preparing, you're incredible. Berlin is flat. You got blacked out after 25 kilometers. Probably look like a zombie running or walking. Whoa, man, that's no good. Picked up energy after the 3 Red Bulls and lots of fruit packs. I do remember being at the London Marathon. It was in 2011. I've got the T-shirt still. And I remember, because I'd traveled over from New Zealand, right? So like we'd just been through our summer. I hadn't trained as hard as I should have done. I think, Liv was only like my oldest. She was only like, I think like 3 months old at the time. I can't remember. No, that doesn't sound right. It must have been 2012 I ran it. Yeah. So we've been running in our summer, and in the Northern Hemisphere, they would have been their spring. So they would have been expecting far cooler temperatures than it actually turned out being. So I remember my second half split being half an hour slower than my first half split, because even I wasn't dealing with the heat that well. But I remember being in the last 3 kilometers, as you're kind of like coming down Birdcage Walk towards like Buckingham Palace at the end of the Virgin London Marathon. I think it's still Virgin, anyway, London Marathon. And people just keeling over left and right in front of me. And I was like, I don't feel great, but oh my God, like I've never seen this many people just drop in front of me at the end of a marathon. Now, granted, I hadn't been running that many marathons at that time, but I still hadn't seen that before. And I was like, I don't feel fantastic, but I still feel like I've got a little bit in my legs for the last kilometer, not exactly sprint, but speed up. But yeah, these people were like just not coping with the heat well at all. So yeah, your story there just kind of like reminded me of people just kind of like just blacking out and keeling over at the end. Same, says Coach Adam. I started in my 40s, just turned 60. I'm founder of the Slow Runners Club. Good for you. Big Facebook group and podcast that I unraveled around lockdowns after 10 years. But it was a great run. Oh man, that's awesome. That's really cool. You made so many dear friends that still hang out on it today. Oh, mate, send me a link. I'd love to join that community. That sounds great. And it's such a healthy obsession. Yeah, I really miss it. So yeah, I'm starting to. I don't know if you heard at the beginning, Coach. I think you came in a bit late. I've had 2 calf tears on the right calf in the soleus muscle. And if that's the kind of like the back layer of your calf muscle, not the shape forming gastrocnemius. But the soleus gives out when you start running about 10K plus, if you haven't been doing like bent-legged calf raises in order to strengthen that muscle and target that muscle in particular. And not only did I kind of like tear, like a medium grade tear in my soleus, which was going to take weeks to recover, the rehab exercises that I got given tore it again. And so February last year through to kind of like June, July was like really depressing, because I couldn't really even walk that far. And so that's why going to Japan was like a really big deal for me, because not only was it an opportunity for me to kind of walk, but do some like really like a lot of walking again and really build up the load on those muscles. But then I had the revelation of like I was just running in the wrong shoes. So yeah, being able to get the Brooks Adrenaline GTS 11s, I dug them out of my cupboard because I thought, hey, I think these Under Armour Sonic 3s are just not working for me. And it just felt so much more comfortable again. Like I was getting like all the aches, the right kind of aches in the right places, but symmetrically on my body again. And so, yeah, I just went out and got my Brooks Adrenaline GTS 21s. So I'm breaking those in for the first time tomorrow. It's run 3 of week 1 of my Couch to 5K program tomorrow. And so, yeah, I'm really enjoying getting into that, but I'm just trying not to run too fast. I'm trying to just stay well within my capabilities in order just to build up my strength again. But I also do feel like my leg strength and my cardiovascular strength is okay at the moment. It's just time running. So yeah, just really watching my speed, and I'm doing heart rate zone interval training. So really just trying to stay in zone 2, maybe edging into zone 3, but zone 2 as much as possible. I'm guessing this makes sense to you. Funny meeting more running nerds here. We're everywhere. Yes, we are. More nerd than runner. Yay. 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 Thank you for your encouragement, Coach Adam. I really appreciate that. Yeah. Until you break something. Thank you, Traveler 11 as well. Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. I was on a call with an old friend of mine the other day, and he was like, have you targeted a race for you to do at the end of the year? Because I know you need a target. So I was like, yeah, no, I haven't yet. So I should do. But I will also, I want to target, kind of like stage my year. So I want to start targeting, because by the time I get to Japan, I will be running 5K kind of like continuously again. I'll be slow, but it'll be continuous 5K. So that's why I'm thinking I'll target maybe a couple of park runs when I'm in Tokyo. By the time I get to England, I'll be running still 5Ks, but probably extending that out to maybe 7 or 8Ks. So I might find like a community 5K run that's not a park run, and just try and find something interesting to do there. Maybe like a trail. I used to love trail running events in the UK. They were fantastic. It's such a variety. I was saying to my friend, it's like, you could be in London, and then like over here, maybe I've got 2 runs that I could do, and they're just park runs or on any weekend. In London, maybe 30 or 40 different runs I could choose from if I took the time to kind of like maybe travel to the other side of London early enough in order to get to the start line. So that's the kind of thing that I kind of want to do, and start pegging into my diary and have them as kind of like things to look forward to. If you do target a race in Portugal, I'm doing it with you. Can do Spain as well. Oh, fantastic. That sounds like something that we might need to work on. Hey, that would be good for if I'm in Europe in sort of like September, October time. That would be interesting. That would be really cool. So yeah, I'm going to start pegging those in, I think. That would be wonderful to do. Challenge, yeah. No, I'm not running against you, man. We're running together. All right. We've been going. This is a long time. 1:35. It's like one of the longest live streams I've had. This is a wonderful chat that we're having. So running tech. What have I used a lot? And the gear, a lot of that I use as tech. So I run in. I don't know about you guys. I run in skins. I run in compression garments. I'm carrying a bit more weight than I should do. that I should. So I was just thinking about a story I'm going to tell you about. It's pretty grim though. So I run in skins. At the moment, it's just lower body. I did buy some really good in the sales, in the New Year's sales. I bought some Lululemon. I've never bought Lululemon gear before. Somebody gave me a Lululemon hat before. It was actually quite good. But I got a Lululemon compression shorts. And that enables you to have your phone in there as well, which I've been thinking about in terms of when I'm in Tokyo. It's got a back pocket, zip pocket. I want to be able to leave my ryokan, my accommodation, go out for a run, but then I also want to go out for a coffee, but I also want to be able to take photos and maybe make videos along the way as well. So this has got, like, in the compression shorts underneath the sort of like the regular shorts, it's got a phone pocket, which I've never really wanted to do before. But now I'm like, yeah, if this would be really good as a traveling running pair of shorts if I just kind of want to leave the house for a couple of hours, get a run in, go for a coffee, and then maybe just kind of like vlog a little bit along the way during my run. If it's just kind of like, I'm just ambling along and I see something interesting, kind of like run. The Go 3 is great for that. But also, like, if I have my phone, then I can also pay for stuff, because now I've got Apple Pay on my phone. The bank that I use is now finally kind of an Apple Pay, enabled Apple Pay. And so it's very widely used in Japan. I can then use that as my payment device as well. And then as well as kind of like being able to carry my like hotel key and stuff like that, all in my pockets and my shorts without it feeling too heavy. So, that's something that I've run with compression garments on my legs. So I also use those kind of like recovery tights. I use them when I'm on long haul flights. Just kind of like to have them on as well to stop my legs from swelling and all that sort of like DVT risk sort of like stuff that we have to watch out for, particularly as we're getting older. But also, I use an upper body compression garment as well, because I don't know about you, but when I first started running, I kind of like I'm very hairy, okay? And so I got really bad nipple chafing when I was running. I know people don't necessarily talk about this a lot, but to the point where I remember going on a long run in Richmond Park, and I was unfortunately wearing a white running top. I wasn't wearing anything else underneath it. And yeah, it caught up with me. And yeah, I looked horrific and it felt horrific. And so by the time I got back to the house, I was like, yeah, I'm never doing that again. But how am I going to do this? Because, like, gels and tape and stuff like that, just kind of like, because of the way my body is, it just kind of wasn't working. So the only way I thought I could get rid of this, and I was at that point wearing a Garmin chest heart monitor. We didn't have these kind of devices that could, give you a fairly good readout of your heart rate from your wrist. I was wearing a really accurate chest heart, and that was just slipping down the whole time as well. So I was like, right, I need something to keep that in place to stop that thing from happening again. So I started wearing Skins compression running tops as well on top of me. So I'm kind of like used to doing that. And also helps keep my body like nice and upright into a good posture as well if I'm wearing compression garments from head to toe. Can get a little bit warm though. I will say that can get quite hot. But when I'm running marathons or long distances, I do wear compression garments like the whole way. Even if I'm wearing just compression shorts, and then I wear compression calf sleeves as well. So that's one way of kind of like just cutting down that kind of like heat trap a little bit too. But it's also really good sun protection, particularly here in New Zealand, where you kind of like the UV is like really strong. Or they bleed, yes. Yeah, Coach Adam, yeah, Vaseline. Yeah, hasn't really didn't work for me because it just slipped off. Like, literally within the first 2 or 3K, it's just not there anymore because I sweat. I'm a very, very heavy sweater. So the other thing that I realized, I was getting really, really bad cramps. So another, again, nerdy thing that I figured out was that if I was going to use electrolyte drinks or electrolyte kind of like, you get tablets or like powders that you can mix into drinks, is that it didn't work for me unless it had magnesium in it. I really, really needed magnesium in those formulas for it to stop me from getting really bad muscle cramps. And I also noticed I was getting like really bloated. So like my hands would swell really big if I was running over sort of like 20 Ks, like to the point where I couldn't get my ring off my hand. And this is all to do with the throughput of water through my body. And I realized that actually my body was just starting to hold water as I was running. And as I started drinking magnesium electrolyte drinks, I could actually feel the sphincter going into my small intestine because of the temperature difference of the water that I was drinking. I could feel it open up. And then suddenly the water started gushing into the rest of my body. And then the swelling in my body would gradually start going down. And that was an incredible thing to try and figure out. It's like, why am I so bloated? Did a lot of research around it, reading around. It was like, it is totally to do with the electrolyte gaps that I have, and the normal stuff isn't doing it. And I need magnesium for it to trigger my body to say, hey, we've got enough good stuff coming into the body so that we can start letting go of this water. It was really, really interesting. Yeah. So yeah, magnesium will relax your muscles, but in particular, that sphincter. It was weird to try and figure out, but like without fail now, I have magnesium kind of electrolyte mix for whenever I'm kind of like going out to do a long run or immediately after I come back. I haven't done like a more than 11 Ks for years now. So, but I'm hoping by the end of this year, maybe I'd like to kind of like, even if it's just a run walk, I'd like to be able to do a half marathon by the end of this year. That's what I'm kind of like hoping to target. It will make you poop too. Yeah, I've never really when did I have to stop? I think I had to stop for one in Berlin on the Berlin Marathon. But otherwise, yeah, I've not really been hit by it. It depends. To me, it's caffeine. So I really have to kind of like avoid caffeine-based gels. I'm not good with caffeine. The older I get, the more sensitive my intestine has got to kind of like caffeine poops. So yeah, I drink mostly decaf coffee now. I drink maybe I have one caffeinated espresso in the morning, and that's it. And I'm even on decaf tea now as well. And so that, yeah, when I'm running, I have to kind of like I have to watch that. I really do have to watch the caffeine because that's the thing that will make me go. Okay, here we go. We're still in 2012. Oh, okay, did I say 2023? I mean 2024. Yeah, by the end of next year. I had the same goal, 5K by May and half by year end. Yeah, that would be good, man. That would be good. I'm with you. I'm hopefully going to be running 5K continuously. I'm hoping by February. But I got, my total run walk at the moment is 4.2K. That's going to extend out over the next sort of like 5-6 weeks or so. So I'm hoping that I'll at least have a run walk in the bank plus 5K, depending, and that's based upon the time stretching out that I'm going to be doing the intervals for. So yeah, hopefully comfortably running 5K 3 times a week by May, like you. And then yeah, hopefully trying to do half by year end. Daughter is an ultra runner. She does 300 to 400 miles a year. Whoa, that's commitment. And also, you're gonna have to really think about the load on your body there. That's fantastic. Badwater, wow. In March, I'm hoping that you're going to go along to that. That would be a fantastic event. You've been to, yeah, I'd love to run a big ultra event or even just a big marathon event in the States. I think it would be really interesting. I think the most I've done, I remember being in a conference I remember doing a 5K in Santa Monica, and that was on a stopover, and that was fun. Got up really early in the morning and did that. And then I did I think it was like, it was a half marathon, but I hadn't been training that much. So I just ran the 7K. And it was one of the ones where you have like rock bands, like all the way around the course. And it was in Seattle. I can't remember the name of it. I got the t-shirt buried somewhere, but that was fun. I really enjoyed that, running in Seattle, a 7K event there. But yeah, some of these big like ultras in the States just look fantastic. Death Valley to Palomar Mountain Peak. I can't even. Wow. You're doing a 7-day fast starting 1st of January. Wow, man. Like I've done like intermittent fasting where I've done kind of like 16 hours at a time. And I found that quite helpful sometimes. The clarity that you get after doing that a few times is quite interesting. But I've never done like a full on like multi-day fast before. For me, it's more of a, my regular would probably be like a 13-hour fast, maybe 14. And then having like, that eating window of around 8 or 9 hours a day, maybe 10 or 11. But, 16-hour fast would be difficult for me to do with young kids. And I'm trying to model, have them having like a good breakfast in the morning as well. So skipping breakfast for me is kind of difficult. So we end up eating quite early in the evening. And then for me, it's about not eating again, which is difficult if I'm not going to bed until like 10, 11 o'clock at night. So often I'll have when I'm eating more healthily, I'll have like a protein, like a casein shake at around about 7, 8 o'clock at night. That hopefully then will help me get through to kind of like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning when I'm when I'm feeding the girls before they're going to do whatever they're doing. 120 hours. Yeah, it's pushing it a bit further. Whoa, what happened here? Let's get back to where I was. Whoa. What's happened here? Whoa. Okay, I'm back. I don't know why that happened. I seem to be out of the live control room. Let me get back again. Here we go, I think. Let me get back to the live control room. That's very odd. I seem to have been kicked out of this this video. Let me just get back to the stream. Oh, here we go. I don't know why this is happening, chaps. My hand slipped upon the mouse, and then suddenly I was out here somewhere. I might need to kick myself out of this. Maybe it's the world's way of telling me that I need to go. Live, I've literally completely lost it. I don't know where it's gone. Where am I here? No, I've got the session is here. You can probably still see me, but I cannot access the screen so that I can see myself anymore. Let me just go back in my history. Live stream.